Yep. So I'm here to do a look at some replays from the Arena Championship qualifier. I'm here with Magic was online influencer Andrei. He's an influencer on Magic Twitter. Um, this is the deck I played. Um, Nothing too unusual. And sideboard, I was trying
Well,
out
notably,
demo.
there's a Jwari. I think most people don't play that, so that's like really the biggest deviation. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean it was good for me all weekend, I would say. No trolling intended. Um, yeah, one into the flood mod, two stern dismissals, important details. I put ledger because I thought that if there's a matchup where my opponent didn't have a lot of removal, that it could be good, and against aggro decks if I wanted to block her, I don't know. And I put demolich because I wanted more threats post board, but I thought that a lot of them were weak to leyline binding, so I thought demolich could be better against leyline binding, and I also thought it could be good in the mirror, and it could be like grindy against demons because I can like discard it and they can't Thoughtseize it. They can torch the tower it. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, we can. It seems that the replays are kind of scuffed, as some might say, because I can't seem to see what I put on the bottom was after sleight of hand. So yeah, we'll keep that in mind. We'll just start with one of the more interesting matches, demons. And yeah, I guess it was only two hours 50 minutes of playtime, so it was actually kind of fast.
Yeah, I always notice that when I go back and look at the arena VODs, the actual runtime is not that long.
Oh yeah, I wanted to see how many 2-0s versus 2-1s I had. I guess it was a lot of 2-1s, so it was a close day in a sense. Actually, it wasn't too many 2-0s. I mean, I remember some of them. I mean, just to speak on it, like this was against like both of these matchups are like pretty good in game one, I would say, and I lost in game one. I had to win post board. Like this was, I mean, maybe that's spoilers, so I shouldn't say it, but I already did. Like this was against ninjas, and I had like double spell pierce in my hand, which is obviously really bad against them, and then I drew two phoenixes, so it was hard to win game one. And this I had kind of an interesting draw against Greenlight Company, so I wasn't able to win game one. I had to win post board. This is probably one of the worst played games I did in the weekend. So and then well
Any
anyway,
matchup is interesting. I mean, it can be hard to play. I mean, I guess I feel like a lot of the time it comes down to, do I find a spell pierce for their company on turn 4? And if I don't, I feel like I mostly lose. But if I do, then I mostly win, I think.
yeah, the spell pierce numbers are interesting. I don't know how many spell pierce I had. I think I decided I had a lot of spell pierces under some interesting logic that
I think I leave
anyway.
them in. I mean, they have like portable holders, a lot of target. There's more targets post board than the collected companies, and I feel like the collected companies are just huge. But maybe if you have more, like if you have changed the equation or gust or something, then the spell pierce is less necessary.
Yeah, it depends on your logic. I mean, I just remember I thought, wow, that green white deck looks so bad. Like, there's no way I'm going to lose if I just draw reasonably. So I'm
I
just not
see.
going to have a situational card. But Collected Company is definitely a scary card against Phoenix. So it could make sense that it's good. But I remember what it was. It was a turn one Lightning Axe because my opponent went the green Verge, land where else passed to me, and I had Lightning Axe. So I was like, oh, should I Lightning Axe the Elf or not? But since they played the Verge, it looked like a forest to me. And I'm like, well, what three drops can they play? And I'm like, well, I'd rather, I'm like, no, it's fine. I don't want to Lightning Axe it. And then they played Enduring Innocence because they played a Plains. So I guess that's like half a punt, half not knowing how my cards work.
I
Um,
see.
and it,
Yeah, I think you're probably supposed to kill it there. Yeah.
well, yeah, if it was being unaware of that. Okay, anyway, so yeah, pretty good hand, obviously. Not much to say. My opponent doesn't reveal Yorion. And yeah, I guess when we graveyard the card, we'll be able to see what it was. So that's a advantage. So pretty obvious to spell pierce this. Not much to say.
Is
I
it?
mean,
Wait, I don't know that it's obvious.
yeah, maybe it wasn't obvious. So I guess you could think for a second about it.
I mean, okay, so like, there's a few factors here. I want to have spell pierce for Fable. I mean, that factor like kind of gets cut out because if they have the Fable, they'll just take the spell pierce. There's two life. There's them knowing about your hand. There's like how much do you value this prompt. Like if they don't have Fable or Annex, they could leave you stranded with a Spell Pierce. But I think that's probably fine. Like most of their scarier cards are spell pierceable. Um, I mean, I kind of also just want them to take 2 damage. I feel like my inclination would be to not spell pierce this, I guess. So I'm curious what your reasoning is.
Well, yeah, I guess there's a few things you can break down there. I mean, one, you could make the statement, oh, if they don't have, you could make the statement, oh, if they don't have Annex or Fable, then the game will be easier. But I don't completely agree with that because, okay, like let's say they take Consider, like casting turn two Prof is pretty far from having any impact on the game. So I'm kind of gonna have like you could argue a bad turn two until I draw like a pick lock, which is pretty far away. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I think I could just lose it on casting creatures because they could just go like, I mean, people don't really play Slasher, I guess, but they could go like turn two Harvester, turn three Harvester, turn four Shieldred, and if I have Spell Pierce and like, I guess like the decision is it's more about the tempo because the thing is they could always just Thoughtseize your Spell Pierce anyway, right? So you're giving them the option to. So you're like, what do I accomplish by spell piercing this, or what do I accomplish by not spell piercing this? So you're like, let's say I let this resolve, and they take the spell pierce because I'm literally by not spell piercing this, I'm literally giving them the option to take whatever they want. So then you're like, okay, what do I accomplish by giving them the option? It's like, well, then I have the mana to cast Consider, but I felt,
Exactly. You
yeah,
have the mana and you cost them 2 life, which I think is pretty far from nothing. Like I think 2 life is very relevant.
yeah, I guess yeah, I wasn't that freaking out about their life at this point, but it's definitely not irrelevant, I guess. I was I valued keeping Consider because I feel like Consider is like really good in the matchup. I didn't really want to let them discard it. I feel like if I resolve Treasure Cruise, like yeah, like so you could be like, I'll let them resolve Thoughtseize, and then I'll get the advantage to cast my Consider. But the way this hand was shaping up is I have like 3 lands, and my hand's gonna do like a lot of cycling. So like I felt like I'm in a situation where I can pretty reasonably flood from here, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Because like they could take Consider, and then my hand is Prof Consider. Let's say I draw like then I'm gonna untap,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
gonna
It's easy to end up with no selection after you go like consider prof.
and
Yeah.
I thought Consider is really good against like it's game like I thought Consider is very very good against them because I feel like if I resolve Treasure Cruise, I'm probably gonna win. So and I felt that I could lose pretty easily because my hand's not that good if they like Thoughtseize a Consider, and then I have a Spell Pierce, and then they just don't play a whatever. So
Yeah, I mean it's definitely like very reasonable to spell pierce. I think I probably wouldn't have in game, but I don't know. I'm not sure what's correct. I mean that would
yeah,
make sense.
I mean, I value the Considers very highly. I don't want them to. I feel like Consider is like a really strong card. I don't want them to take it. I feel
Hmm.
like I'm not that concerned about using one man against demons. I think their cards are like pretty inefficient. Like I think you usually just lose to demons because they make your hand not functional, or they cheese you as like a Shieldred. Because like their cards are so much less
Yeah, yeah,
efficient
yeah.
than your cards. And Consider is like so it's like a dark ritual kind of. I mean, obviously, people might think it's just a cantrip, but
I mean,
uh,
except for like Fable, I guess, right?
yeah. So I draw Axe, and I think it's pretty fine. I think it makes sense to play Prof tier.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
oh yeah, it's pretty obvious, I guess, because if I find a Phoenix, then I could return it next turn. So I draw land. You can see like I'm pretty like when you have 3 lands, like any more lands you draw can be awkward if you're not drawing spells. So you can see here I'm already have 4 lands. It's not dicey yet, but like you can imagine I
I
draw a
mean,
couple.
our artist talent reduces how much of an issue this is.
Yeah, but I mean if I resolve Artist Talent, I'm probably just gonna you know then that's good for
That's
me.
fair.
So they go that. So yeah. For a second, okay. So yeah, probably just lead on Consider here. I think that's pretty obvious. Um, just main phase Consider, and I think
Yeah,
it's
these
reasonable
spots are
to.
interesting whether you want to like access suboptimal target just to get a Phoenix, but we can resolve the considers first and see what
Yeah,
that gives us.
I mean, I don't know if it's a suboptimal target because I don't have an answer to Unholy Annex right now, and they only play like 2 Shieldreds, and I have like, you know what I mean, and like I can,
Yeah.
and it makes a lot like well, like my hands. We'll see what happens, but my hands, I kind of really value the Phoenix in play because I have a Proft, which makes it a lot better.
Yeah, the prop
Anyways,
moves the needle a lot. Like if they tap out for
yeah.
Fable, you could do a lot of damage.
So I'm pretty sure I consider I put a land in the graveyard and I draw a land. So you can see what I'm talking about. Like this is why I value keeping my consider so highly, because Anyway, so yeah, I feel rewarded for spell piercing here, I guess. Also, because that was another reason is if I have double consider, I can Phoenix entrance free sometimes. So I think this was kind of interesting, I guess. So I saw Fiery Impulse, and it was pretty. It seemed pretty intuitive to me that I didn't want it. I don't know if yeah. So I consider and I
No,
see Fiery
actually, I would
Impulse.
like basically snap in impulse there. I
Yeah,
agree. I mean, we
because
just need
like
to find the next card advantage spell to like help us chain this, right? Ideally,
yeah,
one
just
that's
any
not on.
cantrip. And also like I said, I wasn't in the past, like 2 years ago, you'd be like, oh, I need to hold my lightning axe for Shieldred. But these days, since they have Unholy Annex, and sometimes Archfiend, the Shieldreds, they play less Shieldreds, and yeah, they have more card advantage. So I was happier to axe this, so I bin
If we
it.
didn't have prop in play, I would still think it's like closer and maybe could go either way. But with the prop in play, we should definitely get the Phoenix.
Yeah. I'm just looking. So, it's because I don't have an answer to Unholy Annex. If I keep this, I'm just gonna like lose to Unholy Annex, kind of.
Mhm.
That's so I axe it, I get it back. I couldn't cruise. If I could cruise, then maybe you'd think for a second before, so they can't discard it. So you can see here, and also you can see kind of rewarded for spell piercing because I tap out. Then and you could see it would have gone quite badly if I tried to be intellectual and hold uh, pierced. So they thought sees me. I remember I was molding, but they pass. Kind of a I draw pick lock, so that's how you do
Just
it.
like torch the tower here, right?
Yeah, I
Probably.
was thinking they could have Torch the Tower. I mean, it's the only castable spell they could have, but not like I can really do much about it. I mean, I'm just gonna pick lock main phase because I could hit more Phoenixes. Was my
Mhm.
thinking. Um, I guess I'm trying to. I think I mean, I kind of had an option. I hit Jwari and Floodmaw, and since I'm kind of in a like I'm kind of in a behind position, or I'm running out of spells, I could like take Jwari and try and pass to like Jwari a 4 drop because I didn't play a 3 drop. I mean, I
Mhm.
guess they Thoughtseize. So I could. So like, yeah, I have the option between Jory and Floodmaw. It's like kind of interesting, I guess. But I just went with
Yeah,
Floodmaw.
definitely.
Hmm?
So, I mean, one nice thing about deploying Picklock is that you have a creature in play for Proft, but then that's only relevant if you draw cantrips, which is already like a really good outcome. I guess my intuition would be take the Jwari and pass. I think that's my instinct here.
Yeah. So
Basically,
thinking.
they're just pretty. I mean, like the thing you want to flood bomb is the 6/6, which is multiple turns away, and they didn't play a 3 drop. Like they don't have a fable. They could maybe have an annex potentially, but that they didn't want to play because they're worried about like dying. But they definitely don't have a fable in hand, right?
Oh,
Um,
they could have a Fable. I mean, they Thoughtseize my Cruise. If they played Fable, they probably would have lost the game.
yeah, but they're so behind there. Like they definitely have to play fable there and then try to stabilize after that. There's no way
Yeah,
they
maybe.
would not.
I mean, I don't know if it's 100. I don't know if you could say 100% they would play Fable. Like, what if they had
Okay,
Torched the
I think
Tower?
it's like
Like, for example, if they
95.
had Torched the Tower. Well, what do you mean? What? I don't think
Maybe
it's
someone
95.
will
What if
play
they have
wrong.
Torched the Tower? Then they would just rather Thoughtseize Torch the Tower me. Like, I have a Proft in play.
I'm not even. Hmm.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty obvious. I have Proft in play. If they play Fable, I just put counters, and then their torch doesn't even work anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, then they'll like be committed to finding another removal spell, but like,
Well, a
yeah.
removal spell like a push that I can get back with my Phoenix. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
If they have Thoughtseize and Torch the Tower and a 4 drop, then maybe they wouldn't play Fable. Yes.
well, maybe you could say 95%, but you can see very literally that in this situation, if they
Sure.
played Fable, they would have lost the game. So I was
Mhm.
thinking maybe I don't think it's unreasonable for them to Thoughtseize, over it, especially if their
Yeah.
hands like Shieldred Annex and they're like, they're just going to Shieldred next turn. Why they don't need to play Fable first or so on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I could take Jwari as you were saying, but I was a bit the one problem with there's a few things going on, yeah, because I have the option to play Picklock, so if I take Jwari, I can't cast my Picklock. And one problem with Jwari that I realized was like on the one hand, you're like, oh, the problem with Floodmaw is that if it's not a permanent answer, but Jwari is also not a permanent answer because they could just wait until turn 5. Like I'm gonna reveal it face up.
It's definitely still a reasonable shielded answer in this position, for sure.
What is?
Floodmaw is still like a reasonable
Yeah,
answer to Shieldred.
like both cards are like buying a turn in a way.
Hmm.
Because if I have Jwari, they can just wait until turn 5. But also another thing about Floodmaw is that if they play a 3 drop, like if they play Unholy Annex, then Jwari is going to be way better. I mean, then Floodmaw is going to be way better. And also, in
Hmm.
addition, playing Floodmaw lets me get my Picklock. Also, in addition, I have an Arclight Phoenix in the graveyard. So Jwari, this means like for example, if I draw artist talent, I could artist talent then flood maw, or I
Oh,
could like
that matters a lot. I did not see
yeah.
the. I can't quite make out the cards. I thought that
Yeah,
was
I have a
interesting.
Phoenix in the graveyard. So like I could draw like consider, and then Floodmaw and get it back. So I
Hmm.
just took it. I thought it was kind of close because I was like, what actually buys more time? But for those reasons, like I said, they're both basically buying a turn anyway. They loot away like a they loot away. Did they loot away a Fable? 1 second. So wait, 1 second. They're 100% to cast Fable from Andrei. Let's see if we get some super forecaster negative points here. Hold up. Okay,
Okay,
they're
it's
100% to
correct
cast
for
a
them to cast
Fable.
Fable. Okay, I take back that I said I was wrong, but I think it's correct for them to cast Fable.
They loot away Fable, by the way. Well, how can it be 100% correct? What if their hand is double shielded? Why would they cast? They could just go Thoughtseize double shielded. It's better. You
Is
don't know
it?
what their hand. Yeah, for sure. Look at the board. I have a Proft and like if they have double shielded, what does the Fable even accomplish for them? They're just
Well,
gonna win with shielded.
well, okay. If they didn't have the removal for this Phoenix, like they're gonna need to find removal at some point
Yeah, but they
to
can
not
discard my
die.
crew so that I can't go off with Proft. Because
Okay,
if
well, I guess I'm not sure. I mean, I feel pretty confident that in their shoes, they're supposed to cast the Fable.
Well, because
Like,
the
I
thing
think
is, if
they're
their
very
hand is
behind.
shielded, I mean, if their hand is shielded on Holy Annex, for example, then they need to just stay alive to use those cards. Because if they untap with shielded on Holy Annex, they're just going to win. And if they K Fable, they're giving me infinite time to use my Proft in Phoenix. Whereas if they Thoughtseize
Okay,
me, they can
well,
disrupt my
I think
Proft.
that I think that using Fable to find removal buys them more time than Thoughtseize.
Well, I don't know if buying removal for Phoenix is really that good of a plan because I can just get it back. But
I don't think it's well. Okay, so like I think the most fundamental question here is how behind are they? And I feel like they're very behind. I don't know if you think like this or
well, if
not.
they
Because
have shielded on Holy Annex, then they could just go turn 4 shielded, turn 5 make a 6/6 demon, and they get a
but they're
Thoughtseize
gonna
me.
be just dead at that point
Well,
so
it depends
often.
what my hand is. You see, I just have two. I mean, I don't like if I don't have more cantrips. If they Thoughtseize my
Yeah,
cantrip, and my hand is like land Fiery Impulse or land Spell Pierce, or like two
yeah. I mean,
lands
both
or
the
land
Thoughtseize line
Phoenix.
and the Fable line are trying to high roll in the sense. Like the Thoughtseize line is hoping that you have like exactly one good spell and then don't draw out of it. And the Fable line is hoping that you can loot into some relevant stuff like removal.
Yeah, and also like
Um,
if their hand is Shieldred Annex, they don't really want to loot away cards that much. I mean, you could say that they want to make the treasure, but anyway, I yeah, don't my opponent. This was like deep into day two. I think this was this was actually. I guess this was no, was this? Yeah, this was my literal. I was five. This is my 6-0 match. This is the win in. I guess maybe I should have said at the beginning for excitement. So I was 5-0 here. This was the 6th round. So it was high stakes. I was
yeah,
literally
I mean,
shaking. Just
maybe I'm
kidding.
way off. Yeah, like my fundamental argument, I guess, is that I feel like they're behind enough that they need this Fable to make an impact on the game, and to try to catch up somehow. Basically, that's because I think I just don't think that post sleight of hand Thoughtseize Phoenix is that good. I think Phoenix just basically always draws out of it. You know.
Well, you could just see that in this game, like they literally got rewarded by it because my hand was literally cruise 2 lands. They would have literally like lost the
And
game.
that's exactly what they're hoping to see. But like A, that's pretty rare. And B, like more than half the time, like a lot of the time, you're still gonna draw out of it, even in a situation where your hand was exactly one good spell. You mostly just draw out of
But
it.
yeah, but it just the question is just what buys them more time. I have a problem. Like I don't know how much a Fable like you say it loots for them, but it's like I don't know how much a 2/2 Shaman is impacting the game
Well,
when the
it
game
looks
is going
and
to be about
generates the
Proft
treasure.
versus
So like
Shieldred.
next turn, ideally they'll go Shieldred and then have Fatal Push up off the treasure that they made.
Well, now they have to draw a thing where they could have if they Thoughtseize me, they guarantee get value from the Thoughtseize, and the Thoughtseize is just going to be good because, for
No, no, they
example,
don't. They only get value if your hand is exactly one good
no,
spell.
they don't. They literally always get value because they get a discard a card. For example, if they have Shieldred, if they discard a Lightning Axe, they can't Lightning Axe their Shieldred anymore. They're literally just going to discard my best card. They literally, when they cast Thoughtseize, they 100% get the value of discarding the best card in my hand. Where if they don't
I
Thoughtseize
think
me, they
that's
don't get to
just
do
not right.
that.
If you have multiple good spells, like if you had multiple treasure cruises, the Thoughtseize is fully irrelevant.
Yeah, but what
If
if
you
they
had
just never win that
treasure,
game? Well, what if are they ever winning a game? I have two crews in hand. If they play Fable, are they literally ever going to win that game? That's another
yeah,
question to ask. So, are you
definitely.
playing trying to play around things that are never going to win?
No, I think they can win that game if they just go like 4 drop
Well,
and
what I'm
scale
saying is
4 drop.
you're comparing the value of making a 2/2 shaman versus discarding the best card in my hand. If I don't think that it's obvious to say that a 2/2 shaman is more valuable than discarding the best card in my hand. It's more mana efficient, but if the game's going to be pretty like because I have prof, the game's probably not going to go on that many turns.
Well, it's 2/2 shaman plus looking at removal. Like based on what we saw here, it seems like
Yeah,
there
but
was
I
not.
don't. But slot seizing me can be a form of removal if they take my cantrips. Because, like, for example, if their hand was Shieldred Unholy Annex, they don't really want to loot anything away because they need all those spells and they need like a land to play them. Obviously,
Mhm.
you can start making an argument. Oh, the shaman will make a treasure, but also I could fire impulse it. Like one of the best cards I could have for them is probably fire impulse because it doesn't do anything. Anyway,
Yeah,
I was just saying that's why I don't think it's obvious to play Fable. It's basically what do they
yeah. It
value
sounds
more,
like I
making a
was
2/2 or discarding
overcompensating.
the best card in my hand? Because you keep saying, oh, Soothe isn't going to be good because your hand's going to be too good anyway. It's like, well, they 100% of the time get to discard the best spell in my hand. So I don't know if it's that bad, but anyway, I don't know. I was
My view is motivated by the fact that I feel like the Phoenix player is quite ahead in this situation, and that just like fundamentally, I don't think discard is very good against 12 cantrip Phoenix.
Yeah, I don't know if that's. I feel like discard is good. Like if it's your turn, if you're playing Phoenix and you have Profton play and 3 cards in hand in Phoenix, you have to like. What are you more scared of? Your opponent playing Fable or Thought Seizing you? I don't know.
Fable not close. I mean that, yeah, and I guess like that's my perspective and my bias or whatever. But like, yeah, I would I would be slamming Fable as the Demons
Maybe
player,
that's
and
why
I
you
would
play a
be
lot of
Phoenix
Fable
player as
because you think it's
Fable.
good against Phoenix. Trollolo. Just kidding.
Yeah,
Okay. Anyway, so that's what happened. I played Picklock. Obviously, the reason it's funny is because obviously in this spot, if they played Fable, they would have literally just instantly lost the game on the spot. But
yeah.
they almost literally were ahead because my hand was just lands. I was just gonna have nothing to do. But
Mhm.
I drew a Picklock because I'm skilled. They play on Holy Annex, and they duress my bounce spell, I guess.
Oh,
Which
they don't mute a vault there. I guess they know about the bounce spell. Okay, I see.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they untap. I draw Opt because I'm
Classic.
skilled. Yeah, we can't.
See,
And I hit a
this is why.
Picklock. And here I was like, yay, I'm probably gonna win if I hit any spell off Picklock because I have a Phoenix in the graveyard. I hit another Phoenix. I hit a Treasure Cruise. By the way, I just want to take a moment. I was really fortunate to win this game because this matchup's actually really hard for Phoenix. You know, that's what I always hear. Demons is really good against Phoenix. Just kidding. That was me being
I don't think that's
toxic.
true.
Yeah, that was me. That was me being toxic and trolling people. Uh, so yes, I won. Well, because that's what people always say. That's another bad matchup for Phoenix Demons. So Trollolo, win.
I think the
Okay, we
demon side is maybe easier to play. I mean, people just don't play Phoenix well in general.
yeah.
But yeah,
I thought it let me see how I sideboard. I guess I can see it probably in my profile if I go here. I mean, let's see if it says uh, uh, oh, if it says
yeah,
how
I
I
think it tells you how you
eight
sideboard
sideboard
on this
changes.
menu. Yeah.
So yeah, we can see what I do here. I side in three annuls. The reason I side in three annuls, by the way, is because on Arena it's popular that people play a bunch of Fear of Missing Outs, like 4 Fear of Missing Outs, and the Blade of the Oni. So I was like assuming my opponent had 4 Fear of Missing Outs. It's like very stock on Arena. So I side in three annull. Side in three Prismari, obviously one of the best cards in the format, and sided in two Demolich because my idea was that like um, it'll be good in the grindy games because like they're trying to cast discard spells and I can like loot it away and I can mill it over. Sided out Spell Pierce because I sided in an all. I sided out actually the bounce spells, which is kind of interesting. I guess I could speak on that because that's controversial. I guess I only
I don't
sided
think
out.
is that
Yeah,
controversial. I think that part's correct. I mean, there's some other elements of this that I'm less certain about, like specifically the eidetic memory cut. I think most people don't do that in
yeah, I've been
Qualifier.
setting out Prof for a while, so I could speak on that. Well, the bounce is interesting because I thought the idea would be that bounce is good against them because it can hit their 6/6 flyers and their 6/6 demon. Their 6/6 flyers. Um, So and yeah, I guess I mean so. Well, we could start with the. I can talk about the bounce spells at first. Well, yeah. Why do you think were you signing out bounce spells against demons?
I was citing out bounce spells, but I mean, I think everyone who has like 1/1 proft sides in their proft, and they don't cut their proft. I think
Ha
that's
ha
going to
ha.
be the more controversial part, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, well, we'll start. Well, we'll go one at a time there.
Sure.
So we'll start with the bounce, and then we'll move on to the prof. Just and also I'll speak about the fire impulse a bit. Save the best for last. That's a lesson in being a magic influencer. So Well, so if your opponent had Archfiend of the Dross, the 6/6 Archfiend, you're setting out your bounce spells?
Well, I would have a beacon bolt, and then I would still probably side out the bounce spells, or maybe like leave exactly one bounce spell to find in my deck.
Yeah.
But I
Well, I don't
definitely
play.
don't
Yeah.
want three bounce spells in my deck.
Okay. Well, I don't play Beacon Bolt because I don't need training wheels.
I
As you're
mean,
about to
part
see.
of how I see it is like the thing we referenced before with Spell Pierce is part of how you lose the matchup is like they strand you with the wrong type of cards, basically, and like you end up not really functioning. I mean, this is less true post board because they have like more ways to stop your treasure cruise or whatever, so you don't necessarily instantly win. But
Yeah, that's
like,
why. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's why I sideboard three Prismari so they can't use the discard against me properly. Like you see, I'm sliding in five cards that discard's good against. Anyway, yeah, well, the bounce was interesting because in my uh, impression was that bounce was good against them because oh they play 6/6 demons and oh you can't answer the 6/6 flyer like because they have two 6/6 flyers the token and you can bounce their annex and you can even bounce their fable token whatever. But what I realized on the arena lists is that it was very stock for the arena list to play to not play Archfiend. They typically wouldn't play Archfiend. They would play two Shieldred so they didn't even have Archfiend, and they would typically play four Fear of Missing Outs and like two Blade of the Oni. So their curve was much lower. So I noticed bounce was actually much worse if they're playing four Fear of Missing Outs. Um, and historically, I was siding out Fiery Impulse against them, but when they have four Fear of Missing Outs, and it was actually pretty hard to deal with that card because my Prismari command doesn't hit it. I don't want to Lightning Axe it. I don't want to bounce it. So then I'm like, oh, maybe Fiery Impulse. Like I was like, if their curve is so low that they're playing four FOMOs, maybe Fiery Impulse will be better than these bounce spells.
I think you might be overrating how homogenous the lists are. I think there's a lot of variation, to be honest.
Well, I have untapped premium. I can't leak what I know, what I've been
Okay,
getting from Deep Sea Labs or anything like that. But
that's fine.
I believe that the arena lists are very homogeneous, I would say, and that they typically play.
Gotcha.
I will say every single list I played against had four fewer missing out, and I played against like three or four demons players this weekend, and that's what the what Deep Sea Labs was telling me. And then for Prof, yeah, I mean, I actually always thought Prof was not really good against demons because of what I thought before, where well, I guess it's complicated because on one hand, well, so there's a few things, but so I was saying that like when you play against demons, your cards are so much more efficient than theirs, so you mostly just lose if you like discard your good spells. So then you're like, oh, profs will be good because if they you can always cycle it and it like will add to your battlefield and you're ahead on tempo. But um, I just felt that actually the tempo did matter and profs I felt like props was like very bad tempo and it was like very hard to like get the counters going. I have to like play prof, then I have to cast pick lock, or like if I and then I have to like put counters on it. It just seemed like kind of slow to me. I guess also I thought my win condition was treasure cruise. I thought that if I treasure cruise, then yeah, I was trying to win with cruise. Since I play a bunch of Prismari, like I have more tempo. Like my tempo is worse because Prismari is kind of a slow card sometimes. Um, I guess I thought that I'm mostly gonna win by cruise. Props like basically just good in like situations where you're putting counters on, which didn't seem that easy to pull off to me. I don't know. I didn't think props is really a card I want against demons because like it doesn't really like help me resolve treasure cruise and it doesn't really help me manage their threats. So it's mostly good if like I'm kind of playing a grindy game. Like I basically thought that casting treasure cruise was enough to win and I didn't need more win cons. I don't know what if you have any counterpoints.
Yeah, I mean, I just think you touched on this previously, how you don't necessarily think like mana efficiency is huge against demons, right? I think that's pretty true. Like, I think it can be totally fine to pay one mana for like a worse cantrip, than just like than a knock, right? To have this piece of cardboard in play that has a lot of upside, because then randomly later in the game, your Picklock Prankster is now like able to block a shaman or a Blood Tithe Harvester or whatever. Like I think that stuff is pretty important. The games are going to be more scrappy, and if you can make your random Picklock bodies be meaningful, that's pretty significant. I don't necessarily view it as a win con so much, so maybe it's gotten worse because of that. But yeah, mostly I just value being able to slightly size up, like even by 1 point, pick lock pranksters.
Yeah, well, I didn't see how in scrappy games it'll be useful with pick lock. But I guess another question, like, well, in that sentence, where because that's one interesting thing. I don't think I've literally ever sided out a consider off your sleight of hand in my life, literally
No,
ever.
definitely not. It's 100% illegal in this matchup. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of boards against demons where, like, they interacted with you. I mean, like that game too, right? Like, you just want to draw any piece of selection, and I think in those spots, it's like not that much worse to draw Proft than to draw a cantrip. It is worse, but not that much worse.
Well,
And
when
then
a
there's
card
enough.
says draw a card on it, literally all it's doing is cycling, so it's not really. It's literally just cycling. It's like cycling a land from your hand. It's not really, you know what I mean? Well, the
Well,
question would be,
but then it's also like helping you stabilize the board because now your pick lock can block their stuff. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I guess I was kind of maybe incorrect. I was kind of feeling that if I had pick locks, that's kind of good for me. But anyway, that's besides the point. Well, I guess another thing to say is what would you cut instead, for example, for Prof? I just felt all my other cards were better than Prof. Like, I guess I wouldn't say
Yeah,
Prof is
so
outright
one of the
bad.
things I do is I cut all my fiery impulses on the play because I feel like on the play I should just never die to aggression from their small creatures, and I board in enough other answers to Mutavault that like I board in enough Prismari commands so I don't just die to Mutavault. So that's one thing I do. Another thing you can do is, yeah, cut all the bounce spells. I mean, I don't have these Demuliches, and then also I probably wouldn't board in this many annuls. Like, I definitely want a few, but I guess I feel like three might be too much. I might be worried about flooding out on annuls with three.
Oh, yeah. Well, what if you knew your opponent 100% had four fear of missing outs?
Um, that definitely moves the needle. I'm not sure that I would want three still. I guess it's fine.
And
Probably
what if you
want
also
three.
knew they had Blade of the Oni and Fear of Missing Out in
Yeah,
addition,
yeah. I mean, at
and
that point, you
Hearse?
definitely want. Sure. Okay. Yeah. In that situation, yeah, definitely you want all the annals you can get.
So that was part of why I moved in to more. Yeah, maybe I was on the draw here, so that's why I had a two fire impulse. But also, I was saying that like if you know your opponent has four fear of missing outs, I think fire impulse gets better because it's actually kind of hard to remove a fire. Like you could
Yeah.
also have anger, but I just left impulse because it was more flexible. What were you
hmm
saying?
Yeah. I mean, I just think there's basically a lot of approaches to this. The important thing, I guess, is to have like a clear picture in your head of why you're doing this and like how you're planning to play the games. I'm not totally sure what the best approach is. Like, I don't know what Stockfish would tell us. Like, the optimal config is. If you could imagine the optimal config against demons post board, I'm not sure what that is. And also, I mean, it depends on some of the stuff that they're doing, which can change. So I think it's hard, but as long as you have a cohesive plan in mind, that's the important thing, especially with a deck like Phoenix.
Well, I would not be surprised if optimal config would be starting out Proft because like I was saying, I don't think Proft is aggressively bad against demons, but I feel like the two things going on is one, you try to resolve Treasure Cruise because when you resolve Treasure Cruise, the game gets a lot easier, and two, um, you're trying to like not get tempoed by them, and Proft doesn't help that much with either
Yeah,
plan. Uh,
I think I agree that the optimal config does not. If we had like a million cards to bring in, then probably we would not have Proft
I
against.
mean, I would say, yeah, I mean, I would say there's some things to add like Proft. Uh, the you could be like, well, what if you could say, well, I don't think Treasure Cruise is enough to win because what if my opponent has Unholy Annex? They're getting card advantage from it, and I would say this is part of the. It depends how reliable your Phoenix and Demolich are because part of what this is hinging on
Yeah,
is
like I think if you had zero alternate threats, right? If you have no third path, no Demilich, then you probably can't cut your profts just because I do think you need other win cons.
yeah.
But Demilich could help a lot.
Yeah, because so basically downstream, because I'm saying the claim, oh, when you resolve Treasure Cruise, it's really good against them, and then that's kind of downstream of how good your Phoenixes are. Because for example, for example, if they sided a bunch of Anger of the Gods or Extinction events or something like this or ley lines, then your Phoenixes get a bit weaker. Though I guess your Cruise isn't resolving anyway in that case. But if my feeling is that against the demons deck, they're not that good at interacting with phoenixes because they'll have like torture towers They don't usually have extinction events. They don't have that much graveyard hate. And the graveyard hate they do have, you can usually Prismari command it away. So basically what I'm saying is like when I return my Phoenixes, it's going to be kind of hard for them to interact with. So I'm kind of playing towards that as a threat. And yeah, I have Demolich as like bonus Phoenixes even, sort of, because it's another like free creature. Um, and then yeah, so I guess that was my point about Prof. So I guess I would say Prof doesn't help me resolve Treasure Cruise, and it doesn't help me control the game. Obviously, it's good in the mid game if you have pick luck. Like it's good in scrappy games. Obviously, it's very good in any scrappy game or a racing game, and it's good if you're like worried about decking also, or you're worried that Treasure Cruise isn't enough to win. Like it's if your opponent has Leyline of the Void, for example, I'd probably have my Profs in, or I would value
Right.
the Profs higher.
Yeah.
But also it was about like what there is in my deck. Like I never thought Prof was aggressively bad, but I thought every card in my deck was like pretty good. You can make arguments about Fiery Impulse on the play being worse, but I was on the draw here, and yeah, I was kind of concerned about FOMO. I guess before we go to the next game, I need to take a couple minute breaks. I'll just pause the recording.